For 8 seasons during the 1960s, the Andy Griffith Show reigned supreme as the TV show to watch. It was a show that the entire family could view together, and wouldn't you know it, sometimes, just sometimes, there was a lesson to be learned in between all of the chuckles. That said, have you ever noticed just how dramatically Andy Griffith's Sheriff Taylor changes over the course of the first season? If you watch those first few episodes, and especially the pilot for the show, which aired as part of the Danny Thomas Show, you will see Andy Griffith play a character that is very different from what it would finally evolve into. In fact, the best way to describe Sheriff Andy Taylor at the beginning is to go back and look at his work in the classic motion picture No Time for Sergeants, where Griffith plays a backwoods hillbilly named Will Stockdale. It was a role that garnered Griffith quite a bit of acclaim, and when he was approached about the idea of a television program, he and his creative team made the very calculated decision to write Griffith's character in a similar manner. The show also cast Eleanor Donahue from Father Knows Best as a potential girlfriend for Sheriff Taylor, who, it was established during the pilot episode, was a widower trying to raise his young son. But then this guy shows up. Deputy Bernard P. Milton Oliver Fife. At first he was supposed to be Andy's cousin, and even though this nod to some sort of familial relationship was soon cast aside, it was almost immediately apparent that Griffith and Knotts had this incredible chemistry. They could have been cousins, but even more readily apparent, they seemed to genuinely be best friends. Not only did they gel together on screen, but there was something more. Something that even Andy Griffith realized. Don Knotts was one of those just truly incredible, talented comedians. He could make anyone laugh on the set at the drop of a hat, or in some cases, the inadvertent firing of a gun. Before you knew it, Andy was offering up many of his lines, the really funny ones, to Knotts. He just delivered them better. The show's writers also picked up on Andy's cue and started swapping out Ellie for Barney in very pivotal scenes. And while you would think that this might cause problems on the set due to cast member egos, it really didn't. Griffith was tickled to be able to work alongside Knotts, and Donahue, well, she recognized that television history was in the making and she didn't want to get in the way. She also had other things going on in her life, and it wouldn't be long before Donahue and the show mutually agreed to part ways. As I said earlier, television history was being made. In my mind, Andy and Barney are quite possibly the greatest comedic television duo to ever grace the small screen. Their partnership works because both men are incredibly talented, and because one man, Andy Griffith, made the generous decision to become the requisite straight man to Knotts' ever-bumbling Barney Fife. And the new Sheriff Taylor was, to be quite frank, a better man anyway. And a better father. One of the things that I love about the Andy Griffith Show is the relationship between Andy and his son Opie. Many of the lessons that were handed down to Opie over the course of the show's run are things that I've tried to instill into my own life as well. It's not an understatement or an exaggeration to say that the fine folks in Mayberry, and especially Sheriff Andy Taylor, helped build my internal compass of what I believe is right and wrong. And there was one more change in Griffith's character that occurred later on. After Knotts left and the show began filming in color, I often refer to this period as the angry Andy phase of the show. Sure, Andy Taylor was still honorable, warm, amiable, but he also seems more irritable and less patient sometimes. I believe it's because Griffith had only planned for the show to run 5 seasons, and while the network's offer to Griffith to extend the show for a few more seasons was financially almost impossible to refuse, well, some of the joy, the innocence, and the serenity of the little town of Mayberry got lost as the palette of the show changed from black and white to color. And to say that Andy Griffith missed Don Knotts during those final seasons of the Andy Griffith Show, well, it's an understatement to say the very least. Their friendship would stand the test of time. I love that Knotts returned to work with Griffith again during the 80s in the hit TV show Matlock. And I love even more that when Don was in his final hours on this earth, Andy Griffith was there by his side. And you know what? He was good-naturedly teasing him even at the very end, calling him by his given name, Jesse. So there you go, one more pick, this time from one of my favorite episodes, The Pickle Story. Man, old Aunt Bee's pickles really were the worst. Alright, enough yapping. Please share your memories in the comments section below, and while you're at it, I would appreciate if you clicked on the thumbs up icon and maybe even shared this video on Facebook or Twitter. And why not consider subscribing to my little channel? I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.